Hello. Perhaps today we might start by looking at my progress on the 28mm Spanish force that I'm doing for Berwick War Games Club, who are trying to produce a set of rules for Napoleonics based on, I think it's command decision, two fat lardies? Chain of command, sorry, my apologies. Spanish units in front of you. As you can see, there's 4 line units, 2 groups of skirmishers, 2 artillery pieces, and at the back 6 of the 12 cavalry, which I have left to do. The only other things left for completion, I need another 4, I miscalculated, I need another 4 cazadors, skirmishers, for my 2 line units. I've gone for the 1810 organisation. Now these are of course elite miniatures with the 1805/1808 uniform. My understanding is that these uniforms would have still been around to some degree up to about 1811. Now in July 1810, it was officially decreed that a reorganisation of Spanish line units would comprise a company of grenadiers, a company of voltigeurs, skirmishers, and I think it was 6 companies of fusiliers. That was changed again, I believe, in 1812 to the standard French organisation of 4 fusilier companies, again with the 1 grenadier and the 1 voltigeur. As with all things Spanish in this period, what was actually written down and what actually was the case in reality were more often than not 2 completely different things. There were a lot of volunteer regiments at this stage. Uniform supply was at best ad hoc, so one really can't be too pedantic about anything really. Now you'll have to excuse my cats if they decide to say hello. The 2 regiments that I have now, the skirmishers, I haven't put any basing on them as yet because we're not exactly sure yet how they should be based for these rules that the Berwick War Games Club are working on. So for the time being, let's see. So for the time being, they are to all intents and purposes finished, but I won't do the basing on them until we know, they might be on a completely different basing scheme. Now just behind it, one of the regiments I have finished. This is the Irlander, or Irish regiment. Some debate about the colour of the blue. Most sources I've found are light blue. Now this particular base, on the back we have 3 grenadiers. Now for the time being, I have just left the, I suppose you'd call them flaps of their grenade bonnets, a plain white, so as to go back later when I have more information. As I say, the Irlander regiment with brass buttons. In this rules that Berwick are working on, each unit will be 4 stands for a normal size unit, 3 stands for a group of skirmishers, and 3 or 4 stands for cavalry. So what I've typically done is bring this in a bit closer. What I've sort of typically done is the 4 stands This stand over here has got the 3 grenadiers at the back. This stand has got the 3 cazadors or skirmishers. I don't know if I can get it to come out. They've actually got belly boxes. I do apologise, the light here today is appalling. They have belly boxes, as they're called, on their front. And the other difference is that they have a green plume instead of a red plume. Often Spanish, of course, wore all sorts of things, not necessarily with a plume at all either. And then the 2 middle are just good old Fusilier figures. Yeah, so I shan't spend too long dwelling on these because, as I say, the light today is particularly bad. I do apologise for that, but not much I can do about it. We'll try and go in for a bit of a close-up. My camera work is at best god-awful and that would be an improvement. Yeah, the Orlando Regiment at the front. The unit at the back that's been completed, the King's Regiment, purple facings, although they look quite dark in this light. Purple facings, or violet actually, purple with brass buttons. Coming over here, the 2 units not quite finished. Cordoba, red facings. And at the back, one of the Swiss regiments. There was about 4 or 5 of them, and 4 of them had exactly the same colour scheme, as in dark blue coats, red facings, red plastron, red around the necks, and brass, not pewter buttons, not brass. So again, just need a couple more figures to figure those off. The other light unit of 6 figures, yellow, let's go, yeah, yellow facings this time instead of red. I believe the scheme that the Berwick boys are coming up with is that, oh, that's my dodgy camera work again. The scheme they're coming up with is that for every 2 battalions, you get a unit of 6 skirmishers. Can't comment too much on the rules. Over here, we're, particularly in Victoria, we're under severe lockdown for COVID around Melbourne. I'm in rural area, so not so bad for us, but yeah, it's been impossible to get together to try and do anything really. Anyway, so that's the 28mm Spanish. Now we might have just a quick look at my 15mm Spanish. Right, here's my latest perfunctory performance with my 15mm Spanish army. 2 units, again, I apologise for the bad light, in purple. We have one of the royal regiments. There was the King's, Queen, princes, sorry. Had the violet or purple colour. Now these, of course, are Essex miniatures. I must stop moving my hand that way. I paint 15mm very basically, because I'm a basic person. Undercoat with black, straight on with the main colours, often a little bit brighter than what they were in real life, although perhaps I've failed a bit with the purple stroke violet on these. Not much in the way of detail, wham, onto the table. Even the basing, you can see it's just a straight green flock. I believe that with 15mm, you don't see much 15mm on YouTube. Now, having said that, of course, some of you are absolutely marvellous. Ralph Astley comes to mind, Von Ketteringham, Andy Mack, fantastic stuff. But for me, from a distance of about 12 inches, going to so much trouble, to me, for me, it's not worth it. Now, of course, I did forget there, Leon has just done some fantastic Dutch figures, AB, 18mm. Now, these are 15mm, not 18mm. Perhaps if I was looking at 18mm or 20, I might go the extra yard. But there's no shading, no two coats of this, no highlighting, well, often no highlighting. But I still think they scrub up pretty good. Those of you eagle-eyed, even in the bad light, may have noticed, hang on, they're not Spanish at the back. You've got two stands of what are, I think they're two Dragon productions from the Minifigs website. They're early British, actually. British with bicorns and pigtails. Not sure if that'll come out. Yeah. Oh, there we go. Yeah, with early British with pigtails. But of course, a simple paint conversion, and they'll do me for Spanish. Likewise, those eagle-eyed of you will be saying, hey, they're early French, not Spanish. Once again, correct. Different paint job. Do me. So that's my progress on the 15mm front. Buckets of those to do, but I find I can do 16 of these. Oh, there we go. I can do 16 of these in a day or two. Whereas 28mm, yeah, come back 2 weeks from now and I might have one done. But yes, very pleased that the Essex figures are compatible. Don't know, I'd have them on the same base as the old minifigs or Two Dragon, but they're very compatible height-wise and so forth. And when the COVID kerfuffle calms down a bit, I intend to get a few more packs. Okay, let's have a quick look at FoG Napoleonic. Just quick initial impressions. I'm certainly no expert. Quickly before we do, in FoG Napoleonic, most units, cavalry or infantry, use this formation, which is called tactical. 2 stands at the front, 2 stands at the back. There are variations to that, but that's the general one. All right, let's have a look at FoG Napoleonic. Like most people, having played a myriad of Napoleonic rules, probably a good question is, why on earth am I attracted to Field of Glory Napoleonic? My favourite Napoleonic war games at the moment at the Grand Tactical level would be Blucher, which I think is a marvellous Sam Mustafa production. At the battalion level, possibly Bataille Empire by the same chap who did L'Art de la Guerre. I'm eagerly awaiting Sam Mustafa's La Salle 2, a rule set that had great promise, good mechanics, but let itself down, I feel, in a couple of key areas. More of that another time. We're here to talk about Field of Glory Napoleonic. I was attracted to this two reasons. I heard that there's a fairly dedicated gaming group playing this down here in southern Australia, Victoria, and that the second edition, now I'm not sure about Brett Preston Thomas, apologies Brett, but Richard Gordon lives here in Victoria in southern Australia. And hearing that this was redone by an Australian, well, you know, why not at least have a look at it? Now, I've never met Richard. Excuse me. Oh, COVID. I've never met Richard, but he seems a lovely chap. Only too happy to answer any questions, either on the Facebook page for Field of Glory 2nd edition or the Field of Glory 2nd edition website. He is only too happy, and there goes one of my pet cats. On the Field of Glory website, there are numerous things you can download, such as this QRS, which if my cat gets off, we'll talk about in a minute. And I can also recommend, if you go YouTube and search Richard Gordon Field of Glory Napoleonic, he has done a series. See, folks, what I put up with? Well, there we go. He has done a series of, I think it's 11 videos explaining the mechanics of the game and how the game works. Okay, let's see if we can get rid of this cat, and then we might have a quick look at the rulebook. We'll just pause it for a second. Right, well, it's some time later, but I have actually managed to at least temporarily distract my two pussycats. Right, where were we? Field of Glory Napoleonic, yes. In summation, just quickly, most of the complaints I heard about the original Field of Glory Napoleonic was that it was, the actual type was badly or not good, that the rules themselves were badly laid out, etc., that sort of thing. Now, I've never seen the first edition, so if you totally agree with that, I'm not going to argue with you. I'm just quoting what I've seen on reviews on the web. I would say that this rulebook, all rulebooks have their faults, but this rulebook I think is quite good. It's well laid out. Doesn't have, perhaps it's one criticism I would have, is that it doesn't have a detailed index, say at the back of the book. It does split the game into sections. For example, focus. Here we have the section on combat, and you'll see down the side lists of subjects. Okay, and it does that throughout the book under the different headings. And to be fair, the QRS, which as I say is 6 pages long, don't be daunted by that, it's all fairly straightforward. Focus, there you go. But the good news, oh good, here comes the cat. But also each one of these boxes, it has a reference back to page number such and such in the rules. So that also helps. Okay, we're about to be sprung by a cat again, so I might have to complete this another time. What have I got? Oh, now, remember I was saying about how cavalry and infantry basically are in four stands, two at the front, two at the back. A la Napoleon's battles, this is sort of what those four stands are meant to represent. So there's unreformed up the top, that's sort of your linear armies, and then your reformed down the bottom. That's where you've got your columns, your ordered and mixed, but most importantly your skirmishers out the front. Uh-oh, we've got two pussycats over there now. All right, let's move through this quickly. Where are we? I've sort of just picked a couple of pages to highlight. Now, I'm not sure this was in first edition. I believe it wasn't. So apologies if it was, and here comes Cosmo. There are 6 strategies. Positional defence, flexible defence, probe, envelopment, prepared attack and frontal assault. Now the idea of these is that opposing players pick one, and depending on the value of your commander and luck with die rolls, you can actually block your opponent picking certain ones of these. So in theory, with the same 2 armies, you've got 36 combinations of game. Okay. I thought that was rather innovative. When I was saying about how a more detailed index at the rear of the book might have come in handy, this is just an example. I was trying to work out, when you set up the game, one player is designated attacker and the other is defender. Okay, well, how does that work? How do they set up on the table? Now, to be fair, this is under the subheading setting up and playing the game, but it's just under the heading setting up a points-based game. And here it says defender anywhere up to 6 MU. That's 6 inches for 15 millimetre figures from the centre line, and the attacker anywhere up to 10 MU, 10 inches from the centre line. So that's what I mean about a more perhaps dedicated index could have been a good idea. And just to give you another idea, it talks about cavalry that's spent. And I hunted in the assault and various other bits and pieces, because you're thinking, well, at the end of an assault, surely cavalry would be spent. But I actually found it here under cohesion and recovery. Now, I don't want to make out that this is a major issue. I mean, obviously I found eventually what I was looking for, but it's just it would have been nice to have a detailed index rather than just this down the side, just to make things a little more interesting, easier to find. Game mechanics, where are we? One thing I really like, that's a continuation of the different strategies, those 6 strategies, what you can do with them and how they interact and so forth. It's really, really quite interesting. One of the things I really like about this, and also to some extent the original LaSalle, is the actual turn sequence. Now there's the assault phase. The active player declares assaults and moves assaulting units into contact. His opponent reacts to assaults and carries out any fire. Now this is most important. I really like this. The defender just doesn't sit there and take it. There's quite a list of responses that you can do. Now, it's not going to get the defender out of trouble each and every time, but at least you're not sitting there like a stuck duck in black powder while a cavalry unit comes from 48 inches away right across the front of all these other units just to hit you in the flank. Doesn't happen in this game. I really like that the defender can have some response. The other thing is that in this game, if you've got, say, 3 enemy units lining up in front of you and you've got 3 units, you cannot pile all 3 of your units onto just one of the enemies. You've got to take into account that there are 2... My cat's chewing on the book. You've got to take into account that there are 2 other enemies there, and you must allocate attacks to the other 2 units as well. I really like that. It's more historical. Okay, I think we're about to have a cat punch up here. I'm sorry, this isn't going well. We'll have to do this all again when the pussycats are locked up. Where are we? Oh yeah, that was a bit about spent cavalry. There is again, a sort of, oh, come on, focus, bit of an index, I suppose, in the sense that you've got what certain definitions of certain words mean, but again, it's not comprehensive. For example, where in there do you see spent? Not there. Where are we? Oh, come on, focus. Yeah, so it, as I say, I don't want to make out it's a major problem, but I just think it could have been, a little bit better done in that sense. But having said that, I've read that these rules are a vast improvement just in layout, readability and understanding compared to first edition. They are, now there's a section there, focus, you can do it. Oh, come on. No, it's decided it doesn't, oh, there we go. Using these rules for historical battles. Okay. How you convert into so many bases, blah, blah, blah. One other possible thing that might put players off a bit, that rather than having a set of historical scenarios, they have these. Now, these are the first edition. They have been redone for second edition. It's a corps level game. In other words, you command a corps which comprises these groups of units. The units, look, I would call them brigades. They call them regiments. Yeah. But there's quite, if you're going to play a points-based game, in theory, you're meant to have these 2 books and follow quite a rigid, perhaps a bit too strong, but definite things of what you can and can't have. And these are the actual compositions of the corps themselves. Having said that, these books, I've enjoyed them immensely, apart from the fantastic artwork, a lot of it's straight out of Osprey, but there's a lot of background information about particular armies, how they were organised, why they're rated a certain way. Yes, there's our early British. So yeah, but this is if you, as I say, you want sort of like a points-based. Overall, it does seem to be more, what's the word, more designed for competition gaming, core versus core, with those 6 options at the start that so you can have potentially 36 different ways of fighting with the same 2 forces. But yeah, anyway, look, I'm starting to ramble. But overall, I'm looking forward to getting into these, trying a few games, and if people are interested, I'll try running through a few of the mechanics. I'm not going to do anywhere near as good in introducing these rules, which a lot of people are probably familiar with anyway. I'm not going to be as good as, say, one of Ralph Ashley's instructional videos, but I'll do my best. Okay, it's getting late. Enough waffle from me. I hope everyone's well. Take care. This COVID thing is still around on top of everything else, of the usual fraughts of day-to-day life. So take care, everyone, and hopefully I'll talk to you again. Bye for now.